Hi students, this section is adding and subtracting of matrices. So a matrix is a rectangular arrangement of numbers into horizontal rows and vertical columns. Each number in the matrix is called an entry or an element. That's another way they call that. It's the size of a matrix that it's described by the number of rows by the number of columns. So here I have an example of a matrix right here. Notice that it's set up by rows and my columns. So for instance here they could say row 2, column 3, and the number could be 4. The matrix here is showing a 3 by 4 matrix, meaning that there's 3 rows and 4 columns. Think of this as a table that can be used to help you organize data. Please make sure you write everything down in your notes along with the example of the matrix here as well. So let's write an example of a matrix. So example number 1, they want us to write a matrix to organize the following information about the CD collection. So you have country CDs, rock CDs, and blues CDs. And you have in the country 4 groups, 6 solo artists, and 0 collections. Rock, we have 8 groups, 3 solo artists, 3 collections. Blues, we have 1 group, 5 solo artists, and 2 collections. So how could we write this as a matrix? So one way we could write it is with our rows being of country, rock, and blues. And then, notice how it's set up based on groups, solo artists, and collections. So what we could have here is group, up at the top, whoops, sorry my pen always gives that line right there. Group, solo artist, and collections. So then we'll fill in our information here. So for country, we have 4 groups, 6 solo artists, and 0 collections. Rock, we mentioned 8 groups, 3 solo artists, and 3 collections. Blues, we have 1 group, 5 solo artists, and 2 collections. So that's one way we could have written this out. Or another way we could have wrote this is we could have put the collections, the different genres of music, country, rock, and blues up here for our columns, and then groups, solo artists, and collections for my rows. So watch, so we could do groups, solo artists, and collections. Oops. Okay, we'll make my table. And then my columns, as I mentioned, whoops, we'll have here country. We could have rock and blues. So as you notice, there's 2 different ways we could have set up this matrix. So for country, how many groups? We have 4, solo artists 6, collection 0. So notice we're writing down instead of across. So this is like going vertical versus the first matrix we wrote here was based on our rows, horizontal. So rock, our groups for rock, we have 8 groups for rock, 3 solo artists, and 3 collections. For blues, we have 1 group, 5 solo artists, and 2 collections. So that's how we go about writing matrix based on information provided for us. The next example, they want us now adding and subtracting matrices. So notice for A here, we have our purple matrix and our red matrix. And what we're going to do is we're going to add these numbers. So the way we go about adding this is we would add 4 plus 1 here. And I kind of started showing it to you here as well. So 4 plus 1, that's going to give me 5. Then we add 2 and 0 to get 2. Notice 2 and 0. We add 0 and 2 to get 2. Add -3 and -1 to get -4. We add -5 and 6 to get 1. And we add 1 and -4 to get -3. So notice there, I added numbers that were in the same position within the two different matrices to get my final answer here. So this would be my answer if we added those two matrices together. Now, the next one, they want us to subtract. So very similarly, and it shows here the steps, you would subtract 10 and 4. We're going to get 6. -6 and 5 is going to give me -1. I'm sorry, -11, not -1. Then we're going to have 5 and -3. Oops, there's that line again. To get 8. And 0 and 2 to get -2. Notice here with this 5 and -3, this is 5 minus a -3. Well, double negatives, 5 minus -3 is 5 plus 3. So that's how I got 8 right there. All right. So here is my answer when we subtract that matrix. Example 3, last example in this section. Here we're given a word problem working with matrices, working with politics. Here it says the United States Congress is composed of the House of Representatives and the Senate. The matrices below show the number of men and women in the Senate and the House in 1999 of the 106th Congress. Write and label a single matrix that shows the number of men and women in Congress total in 1999. So if they want the total number of men and women in Congress, what we're going to do is we're going to take the House and we're going to take the Senate and we're going to add them together. So we'll take here this 172, 39, 206, 17, 1, and 0 and add that to the 39, 6, 52, 3, 0, and 0. So when we add this, I'll show my work here. We're going to first do 172 plus 39, and I'll write my final answer here. So 172 plus 39 is going to give me 211. Now we're going to add 39 plus 6 to get an answer of 45. The next one we're going to add 206 plus 52 to get an answer of 258. Then we're going to add 17 and 3 to get 20. We're going to add 1 and 0 to get 1, and add 0 and 0 to get 0. So this matrix right here, this matrix is the result, the total number of men and women in Congress. So that's how we go about solving that question. You take the two matrices, you add them together to get your final total count of men and women in Congress total. That is it for this section.